What's going on, Juneteenth family?
I have to take the lead because if I don't now, when will I do it?
These are all dance groups mixes from since 90.
And risks are important. Risk creates results.
Make sure that you surround yourself with not only the word, but with positivity.
Foremost for having me on for Lunch and Learn.
We start off by wearing all of the hats. Pun intended right there on the hats. But we start
special needs children and civilians. I have over 30 years plus experience as a quality professional.
We basically reconstructed what we took part in deconstruct all the street maintenance. That's how we came up with street maintenance.
I almost had to deal with MCA Records at the age of 19.
Wait a minute. I also partner with other daycare. We're not in a competition yet. We're not in a competition.
What's going on, Juneteenth family? Welcome to another Thursday, another edition of the Lunch and Learn session. I am your host, Kiara, aka MBG. As always, another amazing guest with us today. We're closing out National Poetry Month. I got somebody in media that's going to shake the place up a little bit today. Who am I talking about? Mr. Kevin Benoit. Okay, Kevin is a visionary leader dedicated to empowering urban communities. For nearly 2 decades, Kevin's impact of work with his initiatives like Parlé Magazine, I can't wait to talk to him about this, which he founded in 2004, has amplified the BIPOC voices in media. So the Black and Brown community, he is here for us. As a first generation of Haitian American, with a background in legal studies and media management, Kevin has demonstrated unwavering commitment by serving various roles in the New York City nonprofit organization. So we will talk to him about all of that. His journey has established Parlé Endeavors, which was established in 2022, and he launched Parlé New York in 2023. So I have a lot to talk to this young man about today. Can we please welcome the generous community serving, empowering Kevin to the stage? Bring Kevin up, please. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being here with us. So before we jump into that full resume that I just gave, can you please give us a little background about who you are, your upbringing, and how do we get the Kevin that we sitting across from today?
Oh man, I'm Brooklyn born and bred, Crown Heights. What a time! Crown Heights in the '90s. I moved to Canarsie when I was like 17.
Okay.
And I have been since then. I've been in Bed-Stuy, and now I'm in like Brownsville, East New York. So all around the world. I'm I'm Brooklyn to the utmost. And
as you come on. I'm a Bed-Stuy girl, so I understand. That.
Brooklyn first, Capricorn second. I always say that.
That's cool. So let's jump right into it. I want to talk to you about Parlé Magazine. Let's just jump right there first. We're going to bounce around today, but I want to jump right in. Started in 2004. Tell me, how do we even come up with the concept of I want to create a magazine? What motivated you? What was the inspiration behind that whole movement?
Okay, I'm gonna try to give you the condensed version. So like I said, Brooklyn born, bred. I went to Wingate High School in 2000 actually. So Wingate had their own school newspaper called the Wingate World. My sister went to Wingate before me. She literally graduated, and then I was in the next year. I didn't go in September because I thought I was going to go to school in Queens, and that's another story for another day. Anyway, so I would get like her school newspaper, and I would like read it, and I was intrigued. So when I finally got to school, I'm like, yo, I got to write for this thing. I've seen it. I like to write. Why not?
Yeah.
But what was always missing to me was the music aspect. I'm like, how is this a school newspaper for students and they ain't talking about music? There ain't no hip hop in here. What we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, and I'm gonna show my age real quick, Ja Rule and Ashanti was coming up, and that was my favorite thing of the moment. So I'm like, I gotta write about this situation, Murder Inc. Right? Like, so I do this story about Murder Inc. And for whatever reason, like it took a few months for it to go to print. So I'm just waiting. I'm hyped. You know, I'm ready to show all the friends like, yo, we made it.
Made it, right.
We made it. And then it finally come out, and I'm like, I don't know who wrote this. Like, I just don't know who. Like, these ain't my words. Like, I was talking about Ja Rule and the shot. Like, it's still about Murder Inc., but this just not how I wrote it.
Right.
So, quickest version of the story, like, we ended up starting our own school newspaper. Me and 2 other students called the Wingate Voice. And whole goal was to just be the voice of the community for real. Like, we wanted to speak for the students and speak to the students. And that's what we did. But I ended up graduating Wingate the same year that we launched it. So I graduated high school when I was 16.
Okay.
I graduated high school in 3 years. So it was just one of those things, like it worked out for me and I got out, but it meant like I had to give this up kind of. But I'm going to keep going. We're going to do it with the students in the school, right? Like, because it's for the youth anyway. So I'll just come in and like help. You know, I won't even write no more. I'll just come in and be an advisor, you know, volunteer my time, make it happen even while I was in college. And we did that. We put out a couple of issues, literally 2 issues with a team. And then I get called into the school one day and they're like, Kev, you know, we had a teacher advisor. Like, Kev, you know, we like you. You know, I support everything you do. Yeah. He's like, but the principal called basically him and the students into the office and were like, if y'all keep doing this Wingate Voice thing, the students aren't going to be able to go to prom. They won't be able to go to graduation. And I'm going to have to let this teacher go.
Wow.
So it got intense. And that essentially that was my last day there. Like there's nothing they could do. You know, I wasn't going to jeopardize anybody else's situation.
Right. So
I left, and basically 3 months later, I launched Parlé. And it was basically like, how can I evolve what I already started? At that point, like the students that I initially launched it with, they went off to college as well, and they went to school, so they couldn't be involved. So it was just me. But you know, the concept was the same, which is why even the name Parlé, like I said, we were the Wingate Voice. I was like, I want to keep voice, like keep, you know, that theme. But at the time, the Village Voice was a thing, and I ain't want no problems. So we gotta freak it or something, and that's where, you know, being Haitian came in, and I'm like, all right, let's throw Parlé on them. Like, I need something that roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
And Parlé's been that for basically 20 years now. So that's the quick version of a long story.
No, that's super fire. And I commend you, first of all, for taking a leap and being confident in our voices, right? Because just like you said, it's often our stories told, but through the voice of somebody else that's like, that's not how that's supposed to go. That's not how that went. So just seeing that this change needed to be made was a first step into something that was way more meaningful, you know. But at the moment, it was very important to do. So I commend you for that. I want to ask you, and I did my research. I checked it out, looked at it. I said, oh, okay, I'm scrolling through, reading some stories, checking it out. What differentiates Parlé Magazine from any other magazine right now?
It's tougher than it's ever been. I'm not gonna lie, because media is in such a condensed space. we all kind of writing about the same things. When I initially started, I was like, we're not even gonna do gossip and celebrity drama and things like that. You kind of have to now, right? Like, so it's gotten a lot harder. I think at our heart and at our root, we still want to tell stories that are black centered and centric. We still want to highlight as much positive as possible in the community. We still want to give opportunities for people who, you might have never done journalism anywhere else. Like, I want you to have a platform, to have that voice, test it out, see if it's something that works for you. So it's still those things. But you have to do what works, and entertainment news still is that. Like, we still do interviews as well. Interviews was our early, that was our big thing in the beginning. We wanted to tell the stories of what that struggle looked like for upcoming artists, right? And upcoming anything, right? Like, a lot of times, we talk about overnight successes, right? And we all know that's not really a thing, right? Like, there are years that go into this that get overlooked and not talked about. So we would do those celebrity interviews and talk about that. And we still do interviews with pre-celebrities and, on the come up artists. But again, the whole media landscape looks so different than it did even 10 years, even 5 years ago, honestly. So it just looks different, but it conceptually it's also the same.
Yeah. And even what you touching on how, because I have a background in journalism and mass communication with a concentration in broadcast production, but I've worked in media and journalism and for magazines and newspapers and things of that nature. And I think that in today's world, the headlines and the clickbait and the magnification of negativity in stories is what leads, just like you said. And it's hard to stay away from that because that's what people gravitate to. That's what's, it's more likely for somebody to click something and pick something up that like, I gotta read, I heard this happened, or I heard this person is with this person now. And it's like, okay, how are we consuming our minds with just nonsense? Like, how do you change the narrative back to the things that matter the most, really? And I think that that's most important in prioritizing the stories that you do highlight and the people that you do interview and the things that you do want to be heard, because a lot of our stories are unheard or overlooked. And what's the most important process, I guess, in picking what's newsworthy?
It's difficult. Present day is difficult because, again, it's not even just about the reader anymore, right? Like, you got to worry about what Google is doing. You got to worry about what's gonna trend on social media. At the end of the day, it's still a business, right? Like, you could have an amazing mission if nobody's reading it because they can't find it. They can't find it. So we still have to figure out how to create content that is going to reach people. When we do interviews and when we tell those types of stories, it's still like what value you bring into your community, to the people around you. So if we're talking about wealth, if we're talking about growth, whatever it is, like, you still have to be doing something that's bigger than yourself, right? Whatever that looks like. But like I said, it's tough, and the changes in media and journalism, the average person doesn't see a lot of it, right? Like, but you even look at Google now, a lot of our traffic was coming from search traffic, right? So, and it's just something I feel like I need to say these days because, like I said, the average person
absolutely right,
no idea, right? But Google has made so many changes in the last year and a half or so that search traffic for most publications has decreased at least 50%, right? So if you search anything now, right? So the example I always give, we have a years old story about Missy Elliott's illness, right? We actually have one about Venus Williams too. So both two huge celebrities, both dealing with illnesses, that are rare, and like a lot of times people just wonder, like, first of all, why does Missy look so skinny, right? Like, why isn't she driving music like she used to, right? On the Venus Williams side, if you remember, if you have a certain age, you remember Venus was nicer than Serena. Like, she was the first one, right? She was the one. So nowadays she be at these Wimbledon tournaments. She the wild card. She not even like really ranked. So like you might Google like what happened, right? So those are two stories we could kind of count on every year that was going to get heavy traffic. Yeah. But now if you Google what happened to Venus, Google gives you an answer. It's the AI version of their answer. Right. It's a paragraph long. It tells you the illness. So there's no reason for you to click any of the links under it, right? Like Venus, Missy, that doesn't matter. They're gonna give you the answer. Yeah. So we spent so many years, like we were told, like you got to get your SEO right, got to get your search optimization right, because that's how Google's gonna find you. That's how you're doing. And, you know, it's Google, Yahoo, Bing, but let's be serious. It's really just Google, right? Yeah. Like those other tools, cute. They're cute, and there's more, right? Like there's DuckDuckGo, is, you know, they're all cute. Yeah. But it's Google, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so we were told you want to be one of the first 5 results on Google, right? You don't even want to scroll, because if you scroll, they're not gonna see you. Yeah. So you got to figure out how to be first 5. So we invested a lot of time and energy in that, and now, like I said, that AI answer is the first thing. So you have to scroll just to see any links. Yeah. Right? And like they might mess around, do their AI answers, then they're gonna throw some YouTube videos under it. Yeah. Like, so are they ever gonna see my answer? Right. Like, right. Like we were winning off this content, and that same content not doing nothing right now. So like I said, the landscape has changed so much. So to go back, like we could do a story about someone doing amazing things for their community, right? But if people aren't coming on the site directly for that, or if that person isn't promoting that story so crazy and basically every day, because the other problem is social media, right? Like you take that same story, community activists doing great work in Bed-Stuy, right? You take that same story, you put it on IG today, by tomorrow, nobody's gonna see it. Yeah. Right. So that story that used to have a, you know, value. I started, I was in print, right? Like, and the whole goal of print media was you were writing stories 3 months in advance, right? So we were getting like albums to review 6 months in advance, just to make sure, like, because we need this to drop 3 months before the project, just so people are talking about it, right? Now you spend how many days editing a story, editing an interview, and I'm sure you're dealing with on the podcast side too, right? Like you spend how much time I was doing something, you put it out there, and a day later it's already like, did it even happen? Nobody talk about it? Like it was a hit. So real. Like, and I used to always say this because I used to interview a lot of artists. I've worked with artists. If you have a hit and nobody hears it, is it still a hit? Right? Yep. That's what media is now. It's like we out here hit records every day. Hits. Nah, the transparency in that is 100% real, because just like you said, it's the battle. It's a constant battle, and it almost makes you kind of second guess, like, am I doing this right, or is this story good enough, or am I promoting this correctly? Because the world of technology within itself, artificial intelligence, and just the algorithms of social media, it'll swamp your stuff to where nobody sees it, and it's like it doesn't take the value that you're giving is still the same, but the competition, because now AI is our competition. It's not you don't even got to only worry about the person next to you. You got to worry about the robot beating you to the story. And it's extremely challenging.
It's extremely challenging. It's like I was thinking about it earlier, and I was like, as just a question that came to me, what do you think are some of the changes that media needs to make to continue to evolve, to sustain this longevity of like exactly what we're talking about, our stories being worthwhile to being told? How do we keep that alive?
It's so many levels of it, right? Like a lot of it is we have to, and this is why I have so many different companies, right? Because first and foremost, you got to figure out how to get the youth involved with media and journalism.
Yeah.
Right. Because realistically, and I talk about this all the time, like growing up, and you know, obviously I was around before internet was accessible, right? So not all right. But at the same time, like we had tabs bookmarked, right? Like so we knew every day we was going to this website, you know, Black Planet, AOL. You know, every day I'm checking Yahoo's front page. I'm getting that content. For me, all hip hop was a go-to.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, in high school, I was on all hip hop, writing battle raps.
I was just talking, having a conversation the other day about the hunger of getting to the magazine stand to get the vibe, to get the source, to see who was on the cover of Word Up, to see like that was a real thing. That was a real
all those things. Like even like I was thinking about this literally last night, this morning. I was up anyway. Like CDs, right? Like I still own most of my CDs, right? Like I got CDs from years and years, but like I'm on my streaming service, I was playing like some of those 2000 records, 2004, 2010, because we're getting ready to celebrate the 20th anniversary. And I'm like, I want to make sure at the event, it's just music from that era. Like, so I'm like, get myself prepared mentally. I still can remember where I was when each and every one of these songs, like, come on. Like, it is a feeling, like, I can tell you the space, the time, like I know what I was wearing, like it's that real.
It's a real moment in time. Real moment in time.
Music come out on Friday now. By Monday, you forgot it even dropped. Like you really do. Like you forgot. We used to read the credits on these projects, and like you felt like you was in the studio with these dudes. I'm in baseline. I'm in baseline. It's me, Ye. Clearly, Siegel's here, right? Like you knew everybody. You was in the room.
That's a fact,
right? Like
you had the lyrics. If the lyrics was included in you was good. You was able to learn the albums at that. You was absolutely a part of.
And if they wasn't, it was homework.
Yeah,
we gonna write this out.
we gotta figure this out. That's
like we had books of lyrics. For like we got stuff memorized. Again, to this day, there's some songs I'm never gonna forget. I don't care if I lose every memory. When Brandy come on, I got it. This is my part. This is my part. I got it. So
that's 100% for real.
Like even with magazines, I still have XXL and Source and all these magazines that I grew up reading because those covers was like. I know this. Like it's speaking to me, right? And unfortunately, with the internet now and social media, man, it's speaking to you for a second, and you're gonna forget about this thing. You know, so that is the hardest part and the hardest challenge we're trying to navigate right now. But you keep at it, and you hope you figure it out.
They're full of folk, but it's you know, it's just. I just feel like, and I say this often, but even with music, but just the oversaturation of like too much of, and not saying everybody can't have a piece of the pie, but it's like if you don't understand the essence of it, if you wasn't here in those eras, not like you don't deserve to be here now, but I want you to continue to carry that same value and the same respect and tradition and, you know, those morals that made this stuff mean so much. That's how we keep it valuable. If we, you know, dilute it with all this, I had a little bit of this, some garbage of that, it's losing its value constantly, daily, because it's so much, people have so much access to it now, and it's like, yes, it's a whole different ball game. So, I mean, that I absolutely understand how challenging that could be, but just continuing and staying true to the originality, that makes the difference. That makes the difference all the time. What would you say is some of the most inspiring stories that you've been able to cover, and what are some of the most challenging stories you've had to cover over the years? Just whatever comes to mind.
Oh man. You know what? I'm gonna start with the challenging, right? And challenging is present day, looking at how we are treating some of our celebrities, right? Like hood heroes who are being accused of things.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard to write those stories with such murky details, right? Like, and again, we in the clickbait era, right? So it's headlines going out every day, right? But how much of this is fact, right? Like, how much of this is like, how much of it is opinion? How much of it is fact? How much of it is actual, like, real? How much of it is? So it's become so tricky. And Black people are funny people. We, and I even on the interview side, I deal with this a lot, right? Like you take a group, and we were talking about the 2000s. You take a group like Jagged Edge, who I've interviewed several times, right? Certified classics. Jagged Edge is on their 11th album, right? They're on their 11th album, and at this point, most people still only know them for Where the Party At. Right? That's the last time you remember really messing with Jagged Edge. They put out 7 albums since then.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's just one of those things with our people, unfortunately. Like, if it's not mainstream, it's not, is it real? Like, did it happen? Like, so like I'll interview these dudes, and don't get me wrong, they're still on tour, but they touring like it's like 20 artists on the bill. It's the MG1, might be Escape, Total, SWV on it, Shy, Silk. It's cute, right? But they about to do the same 4 songs. They're gonna do Where the Party At, Meet Me at the Altar. Like they're gonna do those same 4 because that's all they got time for, right? But they put out I think it was a 30-song album like 2 years ago. That got me through the pandemic. Got me through, but most people
you already had me with that, because that's top 3 my favorite R&B artists of all time. But just like you said, people don't know. They don't know. They don't know. Like, and I was hyped, just speaking of when they was doing the verses back and forth, because I was like, all right, cool. Now I get to hear some of my favorite Jagged Edge songs outside of the common 5 that everybody might know, But it gets lost in time of, just like you said, did it really happen?
It gets so lost that when years later, like Jaheim's a good example, right? Like, again, hits. That boy got 7 albums all day. Interviewed him several times. Like, I know he's gone through some things the last decade, I should say, but like, still Jaheim. Yeah. Right? But you go on the internet now, he just did the series of concerts with Keisha Cole and whatnot. It's just slander on the homie. Right? Like, I don't care what his head look like. That you hear the voice.
Focusing on all the wrong things. All the wrong things. What the man hair look like, what he look like now, what is he gained weight?
Right. And we start treating our legends like jokes.
It's nasty. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's more about the memes, because I see that meme like every other week. This is what he looked like before. Now, after he put the woman first, this is what he looked like. It's like we just we waiting for something to either accuse you of or like throw you all the way in the butt. Like, man, Ozzy Osbourne had a whole TV series.
Mm-hmm.
This was way past his prime. Like, we all watched it. I still don't know why, but like, we watched it. Like, still on tour, still dropping albums, still one of the biggest in the game.
Yeah.
Right. And I just don't feel like white people do their artists like this, right?
Oh,
like other races, not even just white people. Other races don't do their people like this.
Yeah.
And for us, it's like, give me something to throw him under the bus. I need it.
Mm-hmm.
Once I find it, he's done. Like, again, I get, like, you know, some of these accusations are serious allegations. I'm not saying that. But at the same time, it's interesting to me. You take someone like Puff, he got the key to the city in October, November. And then everything came out. Not only the key to the city, that album dropped. It was like, oh, you know what? Puff is back. You got to hit. And then all of a sudden, yes, it was a series of allegations. And yes, these were serious allegations. But like, how we go from key to the city to you can't even go outside. You can't even have your comments on Instagram open because that's too outside. Right? So it's just like, we got to find a bit of a balance. We need something. So that's the hard part. But you know, I've been part of a lot of great stories in the industry. I've been part of a lot of great interviews. I've seen a lot of, you know, dudes come up. Lil Wayne was on our cover when he dropped the Carter 2. I met Neo in the bathroom after he dropped his first single. I didn't even know who he was, right? Like, we were at a listening event. It's me and Neo. And even Neo, they trying to throw him under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
But met him in the bathroom. I see him in the mirror, and I know all the guys is like, what? But we in the bathroom. I'm like, yo, this dude look familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm washing my hands. He washing his hands. This ain't the time we supposed to talk, but I'm like, I gotta say something. This is like 2004. And we talked through the mirror because we can't make eye contact. We talked through the mirror though. And I'm like, yeah, no, I know you from somewhere. It turns out, like, the first video had dropped. I think I saw it on BET. Like, it was like a premiere situation. This was the song of Petey Crack. And he's like, yeah, you know, I'm a little artist. You know, I'm going to come up. You might have seen me or something. I'm like, I might have. Let me get your info.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up on my cover like months later. It took a while to finally get it done. At the time, he was in Vegas. Anyway, like, those are the stories. Like, I have so many of those, like little gems of people before they even became legends, and now they're doing amazing things, and we're trying to throw them under the bus. That's how you know they're doing great things, because we throwing them under the bus every chance we get. So.
And we got to do better as that, just as a whole, in its entirety of the things that we focus on as a people, and how we need to uplift each other and stick with each other. Like, we will be so much further once we grasp that. If ever, I pray that we do, we'll be in a better position, all position, like, because that's what we need to do. But that's another topic for another day.
Yeah.
Let's jump into your work in nonprofits, right? I know you have some experience in the schools. I know you mentioned going to college, and you have a degree. And what's your degree in again? Give us a little background of that, and then we jump into how you into that.
So graduated high school at 16, went right to college. I went to John Jay, studied legal studies. Graduated college at 20, and then I'm outside in the streets. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. Still probably will be a lawyer at some point, but I ended up, I applied to law school, got in, did the LSAT, all that, and it financially just didn't make no sense. You know, that's again another story for another day, but it's crazy out here what they doing with some of these school prices.
Yes.
I ended up going to get an MBA instead. So I have an MBA in with a concentration in media management.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that'll help with the media side, but they were literally asking me questions because at that point I was like 10 years in the parlay. I'd be in class like, so Kevin, can you tell us your experience with this is bogus. So I dropped out.
This is
and
what
then
I'm
went
paying
back.
for.
Right, like what am I doing here? But I went back a few years later because I was like, you know what? Sometimes the paperwork is more important than anything else. Get that paperwork is essentially it comes with a bag. Every piece of paper comes with an extra bag. So I need to stay bagged up.
Yeah.
But all that said, like that's I was doing that while I was doing a nonprofit. So I was working in nonprofits all over the city. I've been working in nonprofits. Nonprofits are a tricky game because they don't pay as well. You're doing great work, but at the same time, it's almost at a disservice to yourself, especially nowadays. If I'm being completely honest, like I look at some of these pay nowadays is like, how am I doing all this work at a nonprofit and I can make the same amount of money working fast food? Like something's not adding up, but it's another conversation for another day. But working with youth is definitely one of the joys of life, and just finding ways to inspire and motivate these young people because they need it. We got to keep them off social media as much as possible and remind them that outside is a real thing.
No, absolutely. And I know that you've had some time working in a charter school as well and being able to make a difference. And I always say for our educators and people that work with the youth, just our representation, that's the first thing that matters most, because I'm an example right in front of you. I'm tangible. You can touch me, you can talk to me, you can get one-on-one advice from me. What do you feel are some of the things that are most important just with mentoring the youth and showing them the way, and that they have the opportunity in their hands to make the difference now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly trying to remind myself that 16, 17-year-old me isn't what young people are present day. Right. So that's the first thing. Is like, as much as we were young, the experience looks totally different for these young people nowadays.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they have social media, they have, just a level of openness that we didn't have, right? We couldn't just get an AI answer, right?
Yeah.
Like we had to go through encyclopedias was on deck, right? So realistically, like that difference, it's almost a gift and a curse, because for a lot of young people, it also means like, what am I trying for? Right? Like there's no reason for me to be creative. There's no reason for like it's right there. Like I could So that's why they believe that social media is everything, right? Like because it is a full source, it's a resource. So we have to find ways, like I said before, like we got to find ways to get them off of social media as possible. I understand what's going on with this TikTok ban. I don't really have too many opinions on it, good or bad, but I do believe that the less time a young person spends on social media, the more time they're able to focus on some of the other positive things that they could be doing. In terms of mentoring and in terms of like helping youth, it doesn't even have to be that big or that deep, to be honest, right? Like every adult, whether you have kids or not, like you should be taking some time to try to influence a young person's life, and again, like it doesn't have to be the deepest of things. Something as simple as asking a young person what they want to do or what they want to be when they grow up, right? Like I kid you not, I feel like when I ask that question nowadays, these young people are looking at me like they've never heard this before, which is crazy to me. How you 17, 18, 19, and you're shocked that I'm asking you what you want to do with your life or what you want to be, right? Like, it's like that thought has not. And I'm like, maybe it's just like you forgot you was asked. Like, you shouldn't be confused about
Hopefully,
this.
let's hope. Right, but
Like,
yeah,
I'm hoping, I really am. But like, if that's the case, it means that we need to be asking
real.
more often, right? Like, we need to be checking in with them more often because there's just no reason, you know. And again, maybe it's just a difference in how we're raising young people. I don't have any children, so maybe I just don't know. But I feel like I was being asked this since I was like 8, right? Like, you were coming up with stuff. I want to be a cop.
That's
like I was coming up with answers because like I knew it was gonna be asked. So I had to, like, you got to be on your toes.
Definitely a question to ask.
You got to be on your toes. Like, you don't know when they're gonna ask you. So it's like, okay, I'm a play ball, but I need a backup plan. So I'm gonna do this, this, and this. And then if that don't work out, so I was prepared. But
and even in school, then
right. Like, you have to stay ready. Not like I said, I feel like when I talk to these young people now, it's like they just never, and maybe not never, but like maybe they're not getting asked enough. They're not getting asked enough. And the interesting thing is, when you do talk to a young person who is being asked enough and who does know what they want to do with their lives, it's a totally different conversation. Like, you could tell they're prepared on a level that is like, it's almost shocking, right? Like, it's like, oh wow, okay, I'm impressed, right? And there's no reason that's not happening with every young person I talk to, especially considering how much they have around them, right? Like, this should be you should be telling me about AI. You should be telling me about,
like you said, the gift and the curse, because some kids utilize it and they really take the opportunity and seize it and learn, and they'll blow your mind with how smart they are, and it's okay, you got it. And then on the other hand, you have kids that are lost in direction, that need the guidance, that need somebody to hold their hand through this, and that's okay too. But we just have to constantly stay on that and take on that responsibility, so to speak, to be able to help these kids, and that leads me to ask you about founding Parlé Endeavors. What's Parlé about?
Yeah, so Parlé Endeavors is really, it's all of those things. So essentially, it is me thinking about what I needed when I was 16, 17, right? Like, looking at the ideas that I had, looking at what I wanted to do, and trying to figure out exactly how to create those things, right? Like, I wish I had a mentor. I wish I knew more about media. I wish I knew these things, because I would have been able to really successfully do them on a larger scale, right? So we give scholarships and grants to young people. We give scholarships to young people who want to get into media or entrepreneurship. So you're going to school for those things, or a post-secondary program of some sort for those things. We give those scholarships. We give grants to young people who have a business idea, whatever it is, media or not. Like, you have a business idea, you want to get this off the ground next year, cool. All you gotta do is write a business plan. Commit to writing a business plan in the next year. Our scholarship winners and our grant winners, we pair them with mentors. And even with that, honestly, like, mentorship is tough, right? Because you are dealing with a young person who, they might not text you back. They might not email you back. Like, they living their lives, and by the time they remember that they had a mentor, it's now been 3 months and you forgot you had a mentee, right? Like, so I do get that. So I try to check in as much as possible, even if, it doesn't work out with the mentor, even if, you fall off and off. And I try to, even with our young people, is yeah, okay, you messed up a little bit. You didn't hit them back. I know they text you 5 times back to back. You didn't reply to one of those. So like, what can you do? What conversation do you now need to have with them to try to get back, that relationship? Because at the end of the day, like, we all gonna mess up, right? So is there something that you can do to rebuild this foundation and rebuild that relationship? So it's that. We also, it is Poetry Month, we also do a team poetry slam series in the summer. Last year was our first one of those, but we also did I used to do poetry events even before I launched a nonprofit. And even that, like, it's different because our young people aren't into poetry as much, right? Like, it's not a vehicle that they get to see on TV anymore. Like, back in the day, we had that poetry, and we had verses a few years ago, but even now, I don't think there is any poetry on television.
Yeah.
So people aren't writing as much. But I tell them, like, you can bring your raps, like, you writing raps, bring those acapellas.
Yeah.
You can bring those. We give, last year we gave $2,500 total in prize money. This year we're giving away at least $2,500. We want to give more. We'll see. We're trying to get some sponsors and things like that. But it's an 8-event series. So again, our goal is to reach as many young people as possible. So we do a preliminary round in each borough. We even go to Staten Island, do a preliminary round there, and then like bring them back. Our semifinals are in Harlem and Brooklyn. And then the finals, we got this nice location in the city. Because that's the other thing. I remember being, 14, 15 and having never been to the city. I had never been to Harlem. When I got to the Apollo, I'm like, it's here. It's right here. Crackheads up the block, right here. Like, so it's just that exposure, man. That exposure is so important. I'll say this, and I've said it a lot, and people laugh at me, man. But Brooklyn looks so different now.
Oh my
right?
God.
So it's hard to even imagine. But I didn't see white people until I went to college. Like they were there. Like we had white people that we went to school with. There was like 4 or 5. Anthony, shout out to Anthony. Anthony's black. You couldn't tell me Anthony wasn't black. Like,
well, you are taking a conversation I just had. I said Brooklyn. If I wasn't currently in Brooklyn and I came back after not being here for a few, I would be totally like, where am I? Because it's a whole, like, this is not just gentrification. This is a new place. This is a whole new place. Like, even down to my block, it's like, who are all these people? I've not. Back in the day, you used to know everybody that lived on your block. You would know, you had relationships. You knew the people in the neighborhood. You knew different people, and it's a whole different place. It's a different place. It's a different place. So, just as to speak on what you're saying, you absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Listen, and the caveat is, I lived in Crown Heights, so yes, the Jews were right there. The Jewish people. I want no problem. However, like it didn't feel like, I don't know. It didn't feel like,
it didn't feel awkward. They had their
place.
Like it was a separation, but it was understood. What's understood don't have to be said. That's outside. This outside. Everybody good. We good.
Yeah,
we good.
Yeah, I slid through that block. It was no problem. So, but it didn't feel like
it almost
didn't feel
displaced, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't until I got to college where I was finally like, I'm having conversations with Russians and like, oh, you live in Brooklyn too?
Yeah.
Understanding that Brighton Beach is a situation, like, because we almost don't realize how. And again, it's not even as bad as it used to be, but still, there's a lot of young people who are going to school with only Black students.
Yes.
That's their only experience.
Yeah.
So it helps when they get some exposure and they get to go to Brighton Beach, or they get to go to the city, and see a Stuyvesant, and just realize like it's a tale of two cities in New York, but like it ain't that it's reachable.
It's right there. Yeah.
It's literally right there. You can do this as well, but you got to know that you can do it. And somebody has to tell you that you can do it.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to do with the nonprofit in as many ways as possible.
No, that's fire. That's fire, and it definitely holds value because not just talking about it, but being about it. So that's the value within that. And I want to ask you about your with being a businessman, an entrepreneur at the magazine, doing nonprofits, giving yourself in so many different ways. What's your hobbies? What's your pastime? How do you balance your personal and business? How do you, stay afloat on busy days? And what's Kevin downtime? What do you do?
Listen, it even looks different than it did 3 years ago, right? Like I feel like I work more than I've ever worked. I put longer hours than I've ever pulled. I literally got 2 hours of sleep last night. I might take a nap, might not even have no time to. Music get me through though. Like I say that's always been the case, and that's why I have a entertainment magazine. Music has always been that thing for me. That can, ain't no stress if you got some good music, man. What Bob said, I'm not gonna say it because y'all know, but it's just the truth of the matter, right? Like, as a man, sports, I could have the TV on mute with some sports on, some music playing. Like, I'm still working, right? But I'm in a great place. So it's just the little things in life, just making the most of it. But still gotta work, man. Still gotta work.
That's a fact. What are you most proud of today?
Honestly, 20 years doing anything, and that's something like our anniversary is coming up May 4th.
Okay. Congrats. Yes. That's huge. That's huge.
And it's one of those things where you like I'm doing a lot of reflecting and just reimagine the journey, and of course you make some mistakes, you do some things, but there's not a lot of people who do anything for 20 years, right? A lot of relationships don't last 20 years, even on this journey. Like, I've had writers who passed away, I've had friends and family pass away, so it's just one of those interesting things of creating something, having a legacy, having something that you built, and you can we ain't had no drama, we ain't had no allegations, thankfully. And it's never too late. I know how black people do, but like the reality is, like, it's been a great run. It's been a great run, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished. So even if it were to end tomorrow, like I'm content. It's been a good run.
Yeah. And that's what matters the most. I heard a quote the other day that said, "Your business only grows as much as you grow," and it just speaks volumes to what you said. Sustaining a 20-year journey of building something, of a baby. You watch your baby grow into a adult now, and it's like you remember the hunger you had when you first started. And you still have to have that fire you have to maintain that fire to be able to maintain this business. So again, congratulations on that, because that's huge.
Thank you.
It's hard to maintain a business for 2 months. So 20 years is, that's what's up. Before we get into our last questions, I ain't gonna hold you too long today. I want to ask you, what is one thing you feel you owe yourself now? What's one thing you feel you owe yourself later? And what's one thing you feel you owe yourself one day?
Wow. Probably the easiest answer, and it's the answer to all three. It's always patience. I'm always preaching and practicing patience with myself. I I know a lot of people hear me say this, especially women, and they get mad because I'm always like, I got time. I got time. And I don't mean that in a sense, like, I understand life is short. I definitely get that. But at the same time, like, you, especially for me, right? Like, when I say I graduated high school at 16, I graduated college at 20, like, I was always kind of running, like, and it was, I understand now as an adult, like, I was just trying to outrun the hood, right? Like, I was just trying to make sure I get as much done before I go. And that kind of, I rushed some things and rushed trying to get businesses and rushed, just where I wanted to see myself. I always used to say, like, if the magazine don't blow up in 2 years, I'm gonna let it go on to the next thing. Here we are 20 years later. Like, sometimes you gotta be patient, let things happen in the time and in the way that they are gonna happen, right? Like, you're gonna have, and I constantly remind myself, you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days, you have some really whack days and some great days, right? Like, and anybody who knows me, like, do it all. You can't get too high, you can't get too low, because you be depressed over something that gets fixed a week later. Like, you just gotta kind of go with the flow. You understand, be prepared for everything, but also, just allow it to happen. And
being a moment of things. And we talked about this the last episode of just like, when things aren't going our way, sometimes we so focused on that, but not even realizing that it was a million other things prior to this that didn't go our way that we got through. So it's a challenge when you're there, but just staying patient, doing what you got to do, trusting God, just believing and trusting your faith that if this is for you, it's going to be for you. You'll get through it all. So that's definitely, I like that answer. Patience. That's definitely something that we could all work on. Who's your favorite hip hop artist?
Favorite hip hop? I mean, I can't even give one. I always say I got to give at least my top 3 to them. I'm gonna give my top 4, and it's people who I've grown with. So number 1 is gonna be Big. There's nothing about that. Number 2 is gonna be, depends on day of the week, but it's either Ja Rule or Joe Budden. So those are 2 and 3 for me.
Interesting.
And I mean, listen, if you was around 2002, 2003, you can't tell me Ja Rule.
What was happening.
Ja Rule had you in that bag.
What was happening.
Joe Budden's just a storyteller. Like, I've gotten a chance to meet him. I know he's not rapping no more. That man need to drop another album, because the introspectiveness, like, Joe was on something else. He was probably before his time. My fault, just because I feel like he don't get enough love, is Wyclef. It's funny. We always talk about Lauren. We always talk about Lauren, and whether she's a legend. But honestly, Wyclef was the spoon that stirred the Fugees.
I'm about to say, no Fugees without that. Come on.
And Wyclef got classics on his own. So,
for sure.
He's definitely a legend in my book. So those are my top 4. Probably you don't get those last 3 often, but
not right. And that was great. I love that. I didn't know what to expect, but that was a great answer. I appreciate that, because that was real. So I appreciate that. What does Juneteenth mean to you?
It's tricky, because, in all honesty, like, growing up in the schools we went to, like, I didn't hear about Juneteenth until 5 years ago? Like, if we being completely honest, right? Like, didn't hear about it at all. I'm glad that we're finally having these conversations, and we're finally really discussing this, and now it's a national holiday, of course. I've been to Tulsa since, and, like, been able to be on Black Wall Street. Like, it means different things in different areas, of course, right? Like, New York, doesn't really have the same sentiment, because we were already free, quote unquote, right? But you go down south, like it hit different.
Different, yeah.
Like, and I was there during Juneteenth in Tulsa, so it definitely feels different, looks different. But there's still people down in these areas that are still struggling, still trying to really be free, right? So it's just a reminder, like, we have a rich history, we have a long history, we've been through some things, and we're gonna continue to go through some things. But again, like, gotta keep fighting, gotta keep working at it, because it's also a reminder that nobody's gonna hand you a thing. All right, like, if you're not gonna go out here and get it and try to figure it out on your own, it's gonna be 2 years before you find out you had something that could be yours, right? Like,
get to it. Get to it. Lastly, what do you want the community to take away from our session today?
I mean, the biggest thing, 2 things, right? Like, if you have a goal, just get to it, right? Like, I know I talked about patience a little while ago, but, like, you know, a lot of times we'll be like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna wait till I get these ducks in a row. Wait till I do 1, 2, 3, then I'm gonna finally just do it, man. Like, stop waiting, get to it, because 20 years later you could be like, yo, I did it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, like I said, our young people, man, like, they're, you know, there's a shooting every other week. There's some of these stories are crazy nowadays, and it's like, who is talking to our young people and really checking in with them, you know, on a social, emotional level, right? Who is, you know, I'm not gonna go into a whole speech about it, but just check on your young people,
right?
Check on their mental, check on, you know, and again, it's as simple as, what do you want to be when you grow up? And just talking through that with them, right? Because they're gonna give you an answer, and it's probably not gonna make sense, right? Like, you're gonna be like, but, like, also listen too, right? Like, allow them that space to, I want to be a ball player. Okay, so how you gonna do it? Like, give them that opportunity and that space to, I'm gonna be a rapper. Okay, how you gonna do it? What that look like for you? Right? What's the 5-year plan on that? Like, let them talk through it. Because again, like, when they tell their friends this, their friends not asking no follow-up questions. Okay, I can't wait. Right? Like, okay, wait. So, like, we have to give them that space to talk through some things, and we have to also, we got to ask the questions. We got to poke and prod a little bit. We got to help develop the young people into the adults we want to see them be, right? And really do our part in that way. So that's it.
Well, we appreciate you, Kevin. You are definitely doing your part in that way. So, you know, just continue to do so. Congratulations again. Tell the people where they could follow you, check out the magazine, all that good stuff.
Personal handle is Parlé with me. It's at the bottom of the screen. Parlé with me is everything. Parle is how we spell Parlé. Instagram is Parlé with me. LinkedIn, Twitter, everything Parlé with me. The magazine is at Parlé Mag on everything. We also have Parlé New York, which is the local version, just focusing on New York stories, New York people, things you should know about in New York. So that's parleny.com. But social media is Parlé New York is spelled out. And then the nonprofit is at Parlé Endeavors. You can donate. You know, we try to do these scholarships and these grants. It's really hard for a nonprofit the first 2 years. Like, please donate if you can. Even these poetry events, it's a lot. There's a lot of work, and there's no money coming in. So donations are great, please. Or any support. You know, if you want to be a mentor, you want to volunteer, you want to just be involved, reach out at Parlé Endeavors, parleendeavors.org. So yeah, those are the easiest ways to follow.
Nah, definitely. And we definitely gonna connect too, because speaking of closing out with Poetry Month, I'm gonna read a quote real quick from my book, Dollar in a Dream. This is the poem Dollar in a Dream. And the quote for today is, "It's more than one way to make the world shake, because even the smallest vibrations are still an earthquake." Just like we said, make it happen. It's more than one way to make the world shake, because even the smallest vibrations is still an earthquake. I gave it to you. I had a praying grandmother. Make sure y'all check that out. Make sure you follow me on all social media as well at FabAMBG and at I Had a Praying Grandmother. Check out the website, IHadAPrayingGrandmother.com. .shop. I'm sorry, IHadAPrayingGrandmother.shop. Oh, and lastly, before we get out of here, real quick, PSA to all of our glam girls, all of our glam team, anybody that's interested in the hair, the makeup, please, April 30th, next week is the last day, the deadline to be able to be a part of that for the Juneteenth festival. That is coming up this June, okay? June 14th to June 16th, the entire festival is happening that weekend. And on June 19th, we have the virtual summit. So make sure you tap in with that. April 30th is the deadline for that. And that's calling all our talented hair, makeup, all that good stuff. And also to all my entrepreneurs, all my vendors, May 1st, we got another vendor session going on. Please tap in. We still have some vendor slots available. We got some perks. We got some payment plans. We got everything that you need. Just make sure you go to our website, Juneteenth NY. Go to our Instagram page. You can tap in with that and make sure you register for that. Okay? That's again May 1st at 7 p.m. That's our time until next time. Kevin, I appreciate you. You know, hit us up. Let us know when you got something to drop. You want to just come back and chop it up. It's all love. You are welcome to do so. And yeah, make sure y'all tap in next week, same time, same place.
Yeah. Sure. Thanks for having me. For sure.
Thank you. What's going on, Juneteenth family?
I have to take the lead because if I don't now, when will I do it?
These are all dance groups. Mixes from since 90.
And risks are important. Risk creates results.
Make sure that you surround yourself with not only the word, but with positivity.
Foremost, for having me on for Lunch and Learn.
We start off by wearing all of the hats. Pun intended right there. All the hats. We start
special needs children and disabilities. I have over 30 years plus experience as a quality professional.
We basically reconstructing what we took part in deconstruct. All the street maintenance. That's how we came up with street maintenance.
I almost had to deal with MCA Records at the age of 19.
Wait a minute.
I also partner with other daycare. We're not in a competition yet. We're not in a competition.